we do. I'm Jennifer, and I'm obsessed with a question that might just change how we think about design. What if packaging was not something you threw away, but designed to last a lifetime? Waste is a design flaw. The ability to create circularity of all materials eliminates waste and builds a sustainable world. This is an impactful quote from Kate Kriba, who is a leader in circular economy innovations. I grew up in a small Swiss village where circularity isn't a crazy buzzword, it is just daily life. We return glass bottles to the farmer to refill milk or bring it back to the store to refill with soda. People save egg cartons to collect new eggs. Even cheese wax paper and gift wraps and bags are reused commonly. There is no crazy marketing behind it, no guilt or incentives. People simply value what they have, and they want to make things last, naturally. And this mindset, seeing packaging as something with potential, not just as waste, is exactly what I believe society urgently needs to recognize and change on a global scale. And us as designers are part of this change. Gloria Kandrup is a designer and educator who has been thinking about this problem for decades. And this is one of her famous quotes.
First of all, I always say, if it looks like garbage, it will be garbage. You can quote me on that, because if something looks like garbage, no one's going to keep it. No one will respect it. That's what's very important about design. When you have something that is valuable visually, you will not throw it away. You might move it around, but you won't throw it away.
Today, unfortunately, packaging is commonly designed for the moment, especially in luxury or lifestyle brands. We admire the feel of the box, the embossed finishes, the branded tissue paper, and then, just 5 minutes later, it's in the trash. Or we receive a package that's filled with air, and the product just needs this amount of space in it. Even when we replace materials, change plastic for paper, glossy for matte, many of these so-called eco-alternatives fall short. They rely on waste systems that aren't equipped to process them properly, or they're simply too difficult for consumers to deal with and adapt. So designers and brands often focus on looking sustainable and not functioning sustainably. And it's not about making waste look better or more natural. It is about designing waste out of the system entirely. It's clear how broken our packaging system is. It's not just about the materials we use, but it's about the mindset of companies, designers, and consumers. We've designed waste to be inevitable, but circular design now asks, what if it wasn't, and what can we do to change?
Today, approximately 15 to 20% of all goods that are sold via the internet and shipped via some e-commerce route. And of course, what that means is there is a need for more and more packaging in the world. If you went back to 2010, 2012, paper and packaging was firmly in the industrial sector, so a manufactured good, something that was very necessary. Over the past 2 to 3 years, however, paper and packaging manufacturers have somewhat decoupled from the traditional industrial manufacturing base and move them closer towards what I would call a consumer style. And I think that's part to do with the fact that consumer packaged goods manufacturers look to differentiate themselves, not just on the content that they're providing, but the package that it comes in. So to take as an example, cosmetics, packaging is part of the sell because the formulations of what's inside doesn't really change. And so unique, interesting packaging to drive a purchase is at the heart of the industry. Within the packaging world, there are major themes emerging around consumption. We see more and more insatiable desire for people to buy more things, have those things delivered to them quickly and conveniently.
How can consumers become more sustainable? Gloria Kandrup gave me some insights on what it comes down to during our interview.
Yeah, how do you get consumers to understand that you don't really want that bottle, you really want what's in the bottle? So what we've done was put so much value on the visual of what we're getting, the satisfaction of the visual. And I can understand that. I can understand that I have an expectation. Consumer expectation and satisfaction is what drives sales. But then again, consumer use of a product, did it stand up to what it said it's going to do? Whether it's food, whether it's cosmetics, that will kill a company. If you can make that package as pretty as you want, or as overpackaged as you want, but the product does not stand up to the expectation of the consumer, it's dead.
The solution lies in a shift from a linear model to a more circular economy to eliminate trash completely one day. For example, Ruinart adapted by removing the need for elaborate gift boxes by redesigning their packaging with molded fiber. It is recyclable, zero plastic, and functionable. Even its wood boxes also doubled as home storage, giving the box a second life. They didn't just reduce waste, they reframed the whole role of packaging itself. Hermes also just introduced the refillable lipstick case. It is designed to be kept, reused, and even collected. You simply buy the product and refill the case. They shifted sustainability from something functional to something desirable. It's not just less amount of packaging, it is better value by design. So circular design shifts from focusing on from disposability to durability, from object to system thinking. It means designing packaging that lives beyond its first use, through refill, reuse, and regeneration.
What the problem is, we have to use less. We have to consume less. And people think that's bad for sustainability. Means sustaining. It doesn't mean growing. That's the issue with companies, economy. Everyone says, oh, we need a growth. We need to show that we're growing every quarter, every year. That's not the definition of sustainability. Sustainability is maintaining, not growing, but maintaining. And believe me, there's enough people on the planet to maintain, but it's just a question of rethinking what the values of companies are.
This isn't about individual green objects, it's about networks, loops, and complete systems. Circular packaging works successfully when it's refillable, not disposable, when it educates without preaching, and when it simply fits into how people already live. We tend to focus on the object, but circularity requires a system mindset. Design doesn't need to fight convenience, it can guide it. 67% of luxury consumers consider sustainability before buying. Gen Z expects it, but they're not always willing to sacrifice experience. And this is where design makes a difference. Circular design succeeds when it blends seamlessly into the consumer experience. Consumers want to do the right thing, Gloria said, but they want to work for it. It has to feel natural, desirable, and very intuitive. Lush, for example, did this successfully. They didn't just minimize waste, they created a system that invites the customer to return, reuse, and refill. It's not just about the materials, it's about how they live in a cycle with the products and the consumers. Now let's talk about Loop. Loop is a platform that's redefining how we interact with packaging. Instead of throwing away containers, Loop allows you to order everyday products in beautiful, durable, reusable containers. Then, when they're empty, you return them and they're sanitized and refilled for reuse. Brands have partnered with Loop to rethink packaging, not just as waste, but as a service. This is a real-world example of packaging acting more like a system than just a static object. This is circular design in motion. It's accessible, it's scalable, and it's grounded in its behavior.
In the United States, 40% of people who buy liquid dish soap pour it into a different container when they get home. I mean, if that's happening, why not give it to them in the perfectly designed, durable container and then clean it for them as it goes around and let them experience a throwaway mentality, but be doing the right thing from an environmental point of view. process for Loop really depends if you're buying it in store or buying it online. If you're buying online, the durable products are delivered to you, and when they're empty, no cleaning, they're picked up from you. And then when we check them in, you get your deposits back. If you buy in store, you buy it in store, and then you take the empties back and return it to store, and then get your deposits back. So just depends how you buy, but very, very convenient.
So, when I think about the future of packaging, it comes back to my roots. I don't just think about compostable plastics or minimal design. I think about that quiet logic from my hometown, where things are kept, returned, and reused constantly. Where packaging isn't branding, it is just smart and about the product. Finally, we start seeing companies take action, and this is the spirit I believe circular design needs to carry forward. Not performative sustainability, but practical, human-centered systems.
You want to save the environment, be local. That's probably one of the most important components is local. I think you take out the transportation, you take out the cost of the fuel, the emissions. If you buy something that's not made locally, well then you're paying for transportation and fuel and what that does to the environment too.
So instead of asking, how do we make it sustainable? We should be asking, does this even need to exist? And if it does, how does it last? And how can we make it last? Gloria said that designers should feel empowered because even when removing one unnecessary element, if done consistently, it can have a huge impact.
Whether or not you think it's appreciated, for designers to be smart designers and to say, I'm going to remove this small component or try to convince my client that we can reduce the size of the package or not double package it. We always have to think of it's not just one object, it's part of a larger system. One small thing can move a battleship.
To transition towards circular packaging, we have to move beyond single-use, designing packaging for long-term. It's becoming more and more common practice to introduce refill or reuse systems, and it's soon going to be a norm, to make upcycling easy and desirable for consumers. Let's support brands that introduce systems that allow circular models to function and also lead as great examples. So let's do our part. Let's reconsider what we define as waste and innovate with intent. Let's redesign for value, longevity, and more meaning. And let's redo the system, not just for optics, but for actual impact. Because the most sustainable packaging isn't the one that says it is. It's the one that never becomes trash. We can't transform the industry in a day, but we can start with the next object we create. Thank you so much.